indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Well, thank you all very, very much for being here. This is a really important meeting this year for us. I really appreciate you all taking the time to join us and help us out. Liberty and justice for all. Could we have a motion to approve the agenda, please, from the board?
I move to approve the agenda.
Okay, it's moved. Do we have a second? Okay, it's moved and seconded. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, we're carried. Okay, election of the presiding officers. Action, elect budget chair, committee chair. Do we have any nominations out there?
I nominate Lon Robertson again.
Okay, it's been moved. Do I have a second, please?
I second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any other nominations? Okay, if not, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much. And elect a budget committee vice chair. Do we have any nominations?
I would like to nominate Debbie McCrory if she would accept as vice chair.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded for Debbie McCrory. Any other nominations? If not, all those in favor of Debbie, please raise your hand. Okay, we've got it. Team put together. Okay, without further ado, Lon, I'll turn this over to you, sir.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. And again, welcome to everybody. Before we get going, particularly the folks from the community part probably don't know every person here. So could we just go through real quickly? I'm not even sure, Joel, how to do that with everybody just saying their name and who they.
Well, I suppose it'd be easiest. Each person's screen's a little differently. Would you
Right.
like me to basically? I don't know how we do that. That's a good question.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Joel, I think if you just go in your order and maybe prompt us, that would help keep.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's actually there.
That'd be great. Joel, would you mind doing that?
I love it. We just collaboratively came up with something right there. That's awesome. All right. Well, I'll go first then. My name is Joel Higdon. I'm the Director of Technology Services and Facilities. Mr. Johnson? Oh, you muted, Mike. Mike, you're still muted.
You're still muted.
Hey, oh, there he
There
goes.
There he
Okay.
goes.
Mike Johnson, Superintendent.
Sorry, Joel, who did you say?
Tim Rogers. Sorry, I was muted.
Yes, you were. I didn't hear.
Yeah, no, my bad.
Tim Rogers, community member of the Budget Committee.
Candace?
Candace Limhouse Worsham, Board of Directors, position 1.
Jenny?
Hi, I'm Jenny Collins. I'm the principal at the high school.
Ashley?
Ashley Miller, school board member 7, number 7. Lucky number 7.
The Honorable Mrs. Cruzan.
Oh, Marilyn Cruzan, Superintendent and Board Secretary.
Mike Anderson.
Mike Anderson, Board Chair. I think it's position 4.
Mark.
There is Mark Parker, Director, position 2.
Lacey.
Lacey Risdall, Board Director.
Debbie.
Debbie McCrory, newly nominated committee vice chair. Thank you so much.
Lon.
And Lon Robertson, community member.
Debbie from Hawaii, phoning in. That's awesome.
Yeah. Debbie Wilkerson, director, position number 3.
Julie.
Julie Johansson, principal at Creswell Middle School.
Chanel.
Chanel Green, business manager here at the district office.
Christine.
Christine Corsi, and I am a community member.
Amy.
Amy Aguero, Director of Student Services for the district.
And last but not least, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I am Sarah Klein, community member.
Mr. Robertson, they have all been introduced.
Great, thank you very much. Well, it's like the gang's all here, plus just a couple extras from that weren't here last year, but it's great to see you all. Thanks again for volunteering to take your time to go through this budget process. Mike, I'm going to obviously defer to you fairly quickly on this with the presentation of the budget message, if you want to start there. Mike, you need to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Now we can, thanks.
Great. Okay. I don't know, my computer's playing tricks with me tonight, but first of all, thank you all for being here this evening. It's my honor to be the superintendent of the Creswell School District and to present the superintendent's budget message for the 2021-22 proposed budget. The Creswell School District budget message is intended to provide a summary of the proposed budget and how this budget differs from the prior year. In developing this budget, our focus continues to be on the district's mission. Creswell School District educates students to be lifelong learners and responsible citizens. At the time of the publication of this document, students and staff across the district are currently returning to in-person learning after a year of distance learning. 1 full year. For over a year, we have been consistently challenged by the conditions of the COVID-19 pandemic, yet we have remained together as one community. There certainly have been many struggles, but we overcame them with resilience and determination to provide extraordinary care and the best education possible for all of our kids. Although we are not completely out of the woods with this virus, we do see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now we will take all that we have learned from our experience with the pandemic into the 21-22 school year. This budget message focuses on our current reality and our best thinking for the next year. Oregon's next economic forecast isn't due until late May 2021. Therefore, this budget is built on the estimate issued by the Oregon Department of Education on March 1, 2021, and the Ways and Means Committee 2021-23 Biennial proposal released on May 12, 2021 of $9.3 billion. The 2021-23 biennial budget and state school fund distributions are predicated on a $9.3 billion state appropriation. This amount has not yet been amended by the legislature as of the date of this document. There are certainly reasons to believe this funding level may change based upon the current economic factors as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. It is anticipated that income tax and property tax collections may be down from current estimates. However, we have no way of determining what the impact may be at this time. It is important to note that this 2021 proposed budget does reflect financial impact as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. As such, the district staff are proposing a budget that allows the district to continue services to students and move toward our continuous improvement plan based on existing estimates. The funding level based on an appropriated $9.3 billion is the lowest increase in the state school fund since the Great Recession. At $9.3 billion, CSD will receive $775,000 less in SSF revenue than in 2020-21. In the 2019-20 school year, staff worked to establish potential reductions should we face future reductions in our state school fund due to the economic impacts of COVID-19. In preparing for the shortfall in students or SSF for the 2021-23 biennium, we made adjustments to expenditures in the 2019-20 and 2020-21 school years to save jobs and keep programs. We implemented furlough days in the spring of 2020, put a hold on hiring with the exception of essential and hard to fill positions, and a freeze on spending other than for costs related to COVID-19. In addition, we are estimating grant funding to support our improvement initiatives from the SIA funding projected to be at $864,414. High school success funding projected to be at $324,393. ESSER relief funding projected to be $1,270,910. And the newest summer school grant funding projected to be at $483,328. Regardless of the many challenges we face, we are committed to developing a budget that will best serve the students of our community. The steps taken will allow us flexibility to move quickly as the economic story in Oregon continues to unfold. To withstand any funding shortfall and planning for the future of the district, we have set our ending fund balance at 7%. This is a 2%, $320,000 decrease from the 2020-21 due to the projected enrollment decrease and state school fund decrease, and the need for curriculum materials adoption. As this school year unfolds, our students will have lost nearly a full year of in-person instruction. Our district staff responded to this crisis with amazing resilience and determination. It is imperative that we maintain our current level of service and invest in much needed interventions and supports to overcome the loss of in-person instructional time. Therefore, the 2021-22 proposed budget for the general fund is a roll forward service level budget utilizing additional grant funding to maintain current level of services. Thank you.
So moving forward, I was going to summarize for you guys the next part of the book. Pages 7 through 150, so we don't have to go page by page, is listed in these next few slides. Starting with going over the general fund revenue. So the bulk of our general fund comes from three major sources: local revenue, including property taxes, county school fund, and common school fund, the state school fund, and then our beginning fund balance. And as you can see there on the graph, the state school fund represents 57% of our general fund revenue, whereas local revenue is 22%. This year, we're looking at about 17% for our beginning fund balance, and then 3% from miscellaneous. I don't have last year's to pull up, but I do know the number. And last year, state school fund represented 63% of our general fund. So you can see that's a decrease there, but our beginning fund balance was 13% last year. So moving up to the 17% is really what helped us not have a larger shortfall than we already have in our general fund. So here is an estimate of our local revenue. This comes from our state school fund, with the property taxes accounting for about 22%. And then, as many of you probably know, we have that permanent rate set for the property tax at 4.6426. And the bond assessment at $1.84 per thousand of assessed value. Oops. Sorry. There we go. This is just a rundown of the state school fund. So as many of you probably know, we have the ADMR and ADMW, and this graph just shows kind of how we arrived to that number. So when we were working on creating the 2021 budget, we were estimated to have a pupil count, which is ADMR, of 1276. However, as you can see here on the right, once we started school and our numbers came in, we ended with 1157. So we received less money in our state school fund than budgeted. And now for this next year, they're projecting us to be at 1201. So that is a decrease that we're seeing this year compared to last year. But we are paid off of this end number. Sorry, I gotta move my screen around. Of the 1438, which is our ADMW. And they get to that because they add weights in for these special programs. So our ESL, our IEP students, students in poverty, students in foster care, and the credit for small high school. And that is added to our ADMR, which lands us at this 1438. And that is the number where they come up with our state school fund allocation. Moving on to the general fund expenses. So education is a service profession. So of course, about 72%, the large part of our budget is spent on staffing, salaries, benefits. But then we are proposing our budget to move into 10% for purchase services, 7% for supplies and materials, 1% for miscellaneous other objects, 3% for transfers, and 7% for our contingency fund. In summary of the general fund, we are projecting a $77,740 decrease from last year's budget. This comes from a significant state school fund decrease due to a decline in enrollment and a shortfall in the state school fund. We are budgeting an increase though in our expected beginning fund balance due to cost savings during the 2021 fiscal year.
Thanks, Chanel. We want to go to special revenue now then?
Sure. So this slide here provides an overview of our 200 level funds. As you can see, it makes up the grants, facilities, nutrition services, vehicle replacement, the student activity fund, student body, and scholarship. Mike's going to go over those a little more in detail in the next report, but so if you guys have questions and want to go over them then or now, it's up to you.
I think we can wait till Mike presents.
Perfect. And then the last portion is debt service. So the debt service fund rate for general obligation bonds is estimated to be the $1.84 per thousand with a repayment total of $1,484,053. And then the PERS debt service amount has a total of $438,796, which is paid for by assessments on payroll.
Are there any questions on any of the debt service issues? If somebody sees a hand raised, please holler out because with the screen sharing, it's hard to see everybody. Mike, we're going to let it go back to you then, I guess.
Okay, am I on?
I think you're on.
Oh, great. Okay, do you all have by document the proposed budget overview for the committee?
Yes.
Okay, so in the cost center for administration, we made some budget adjustments and in the object 200 decreased due to personnel budget analysis. Object 300 will be partially funded with ESSR funds or ESSER funds. So we're trying to bridge from our general fund into the grants to carry us through the shortfall. Object 400 increased due to the added funds for curriculum textbook adoption. We're headed into 2 adoptions. We were preparing for this last year when we took some of our contingency and put it into textbooks. We have 2 adoptions coming up, math and English language arts, and it need to reserve about $300,000 per adoption. So that's what we're preparing for there. Object 700 is a transfer to Fund 275 at $280,000 and 288, $136,000 for transportation for athletics and extracurricular activities, and Fund 299 for $81,140. The Object 800 contingency decrease from 9% to 7%, as Chanel mentioned. That's due to the state schools fund decline and a decline in our enrollment, projected at about 75 students. Any questions on that cost center from anyone? Joel, you'll have to let me know if you see any hands because I'm not seeing everyone on my screen. Lon, we good to go forward?
Yes, please keep going, Mike.
Okay, cost center, transportation. Object 100 has decreased due to sports transportation moving to Fund 275. Object 400 increased due to sports transportation moving to Fund 275. Object 700 is not needed this year due to an increase in the beginning fund balance of Fund 274. Any questions on that? Chanel, did you want to speak to Object 400 there?
Oh, for the sports increase?
Yeah.
So we're moving all of transportation's costs to Fund 275. We're not going to transfer back and forth between the general fund. And so, yeah, that created the decrease, but it also created an increase in the 400 because we had a negative 55,000 allocation for transportation to Fund 275, and we took that out and we're putting all the Fund 275.
Chanel, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but can you unpeel that just a little bit better for us? Because there's some history there that with the 275 fund, it's a little confusing.
Right. So Fund 2, it was honestly a little confusing for me as well of how we had it set up internally with our finance system. So I had to really take a hard look at it and figure out how I can make sense to make it work for me. And talking with our new payroll gal as well, she is able to charge, if they're going to run a trip for sports, their additional time for our bus drivers or for the cost of gas is going to be billed directly to Fund 275 versus before it was being billed to general fund. And then at the end of the month, Sarah, the transportation director, would keep a log. She would send over us a total and then we would do a transfer. And so we're taking out the transfer piece of it. And it's all being built to Fund 275. So we did our best estimate on what we think transportation will cost for sports. And we've put that into Fund 275, which is part of the increase in the general fund transfer to Fund 275, as well as salary increases for coaches. But so it's a kind of complicated, but hopefully that makes sense.
That made a lot of sense. Thank you. At least I think most of us had this figured out before, but that helped bring my brain back into it. So thanks. Perfect. Okay.
Any other questions on that one? Moving forward, Lon?
Please.
Okay, cost center, special services, budget adjustments. Object 100 has decreased due to a personnel budget analysis. Object 400 decreased due to a 25% supply and material cut, plus transitioning ELL 410 account to the school level. So due to the shortfall in state funding, we have a 25% across the board cut in supplies. That would explain what's happening in Object 400.
And I do have a question on that. So is that like a half a position or something that's lost out of special services?
We actually didn't decrease any FTE from special services. That is just due to personnel changes and then personnel budgeting analysis. We were over budgeted in areas.
Okay.
And so we're kind of getting closer to our actual number.
Great.
There is no cut in FTE in that.
Got it. Thank you.
There.
Anybody else have questions?
Just a quick question. The material and supply cut, is that a cut across the board in order to help balance the general fund? Or I see Mike shaking his head yes. How significant of a cut is that?
I'm sorry, I just realized as Mike was saying that, I somehow missed a whole slide, which was my overview of the changes from general fund, increases and decreases. I don't know why I missed it, but it's there. I can go back to it here in a second. But yes, it's a 25% cut across the board in every general fund 410 account.
Okay.
One, we have, we're slated to have less students. So the per student account, we should have, less supplies and materials going out per pupil. But then needing to meet the general fund, having a decrease, that was, to me, made the most sense to make a cut in that area. So 25% across the board. But there are some areas such as custodial and technology that we will backfill with ESSER funds because we just can't take a hit there.
Okay, thank you.
Moving forward, Lon?
Yeah, go ahead. And Chanel, maybe you can come back and tell us a little bit about the sheet that you missed later.
I can hold on for that if you like.
Oh, can you pull that up, Chanel?
I can. Let me go. It's right here. So this was a quick overview on if you were going to go through the book, you're going to see most of the changes right here. So for decreases, we moved part of counseling and a half-time tech position to grant funding. So we didn't cut them at all. They're just being paid out, not out of general fund. We moved the extracurricular transportation charges to Fund 275. The textbooks, which are the 420 accounts at the school level, were decreased so that they're meant only for replacement textbooks only. And then the curriculum adoption and textbook fund is all under the district account. What else here? The general fund supply material accounts were decreased by 25% across the board. And sorry, my Zoom window is in the way of my thing here. Facilities, including custodial grounds and maintenance, and then technology funds were decreased, but will be backfilled with ESSER funds. And then the last decrease was our ending fund balance decreased from 9 to 7%. The increases, some of the givens, we had this employee salary step and benefit increase, the 1.5% employees COLA, the district contribution to health insurance, which equals $600 a year per employee. We added a custodial supervisor. We budgeted that in, and that was new we started that position this year, hired for it, but it wasn't in this year's budget. So moving forward, it's now in next year's budget. And then the general fund transfer to other funds was increased. Fund 299, we had to increase from last year from 20,000 to about 81,000 to account for the shortfall in lunch sales because lunch is free for everyone. So we're collecting no lunch money other than possibly a very small amount for like adult meals. And then Fund 275 has an increase to account for salary increases and the transportation charges.
Great, thank you. That was an important slide. Appreciate you catching it. That helps. Now, Mike.
Okay, back to the overview. Cost center, Crest Lane Elementary School. the budget adjustments at that program. Object 300 decreased due to an equity analysis between cost centers. Object 400 decreased due to a 25% supply material cut. And object 600 increased due to Creswell having 2 administrators. It increased by $600. So, any questions on that? Good, Lon?
Good.
Okay, next cost center, Creswell Middle School, budget adjustments. Object 100 and 200 decreased due to partially funding counseling and fully funding school improvement instruction positions from grant funding. Object 300 decreased due to an equity analysis between all cost centers. And object 400 decreased due to 25% supply material cut and equity analysis between all schools. Questions? Moving on. Cost center, Creswell High School.
Mike, sorry, I didn't find my unmute button quick enough. Back at the middle school, when we're moving the counselor to grant fund, does that mean next year we need to make sure we can find permanent funding to keep a counselor position?
No, we're looking out to 23-24 to fully fund these. Some of this is out of the SIA grant, which is going to carry on indefinitely. And then some of this cost is going to the ESSER grant, which goes out to 23-24. So we're providing stability through the biennium.
Okay, but after that, then we need to make sure we've got, because I just don't want to lose a counselor position. That seems, of course, right now, super important. So that's just a long-term fix that we need if we want to get it out of grant funding.
Yeah, but with the SIA grants that will keep continuing, we don't see any risk with that position. We're just now trying to bridge through the shortfall. Through the
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for letting me go back, Lon.
High school. Object 100 and 200 decreased due to partially funding counseling and CTE teachers from grant funding. So that would come out of high school success there. And object 300 decreased due to an equity analysis between all cost centers. Object 400 decreased due to 25% supply and material cut, and supply account for CTE course moved to grant funding. So we realigned some of our expenditures into Measure 98 there to provide more stability to provide our current level services. Any questions on that one?
Mike, would you explain the Measure 98?
Yeah, the Measure 98 is the high school success grant that we receive from the state. And we're approximately about 375,000 or so, maybe closer to 400,000. Chanel would have the specific number, but that's a grant that we've been receiving for, I don't know, over 5 years, I'd estimate.
Wow.
And we've been informed by ODE that will be continuing on a fully funded basis.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Chanel, did I have the numbers close on that one?
You're pretty close. 324,000 is what we're allocated for this next year. So we had extra funds to budget staffing and supplies too.
Thank you. I can't believe it's been 5 years. Wow.
Any other questions on that one?
No.
Okay. Vehicle replacements, going on to the next overview doc. 274 vehicle replacement. Revenue total $288,098. an increase there of 13,150 from last year. We had state school fund depreciation, and the expenditures or payments for 3 buses. So
And if I could just add, this was the one that, this is why we're not transferring $40,000 from the general fund, just because the ending fund balance was much larger than expected. So we already have an increase from last year, and I didn't see the need to put an additional 40,000 because we will still be able to pay our 3 buses, and we will have a healthy ending fund balance to keep this account going so that we can replace buses in the future.
Great. Good.
Fund 275, extra co-curricular activities. Revenues, 347,542, increase of 17,703 from last year. Expenditures, typical, coaches, extra duty stipends, transportation and supplies, so increases in personnel there. Fund 288 facilities, revenue 943,000. That's a decrease, and the decrease that's showing there, the $2,577,644. That was realigned in the budget in the general fund to move to grant funding because that was for our seismic grant. So that's where that decrease comes from. Construction, excise tax, cool schools, interest, and grant fund transfers. Expenditures, repairs and maintenance, and planned reserve. Any questions so far? Yeah. 294 scholarships. Revenues 55,687. There's a decrease there of 3,563 from last year. And the expenditures, of course, goes to scholarships for our students. Fund 298 student body. Revenue total 393,100. We're flat there, no changes from last year. And it's used to budget and monitor school student body funds. Fund 299 nutrition services. Revenue total 486,692. That's a decrease of 51,658. So that's all meals total on our expenditures, and all students' meals will continue to be served at no cost to them. So free meals will continue as the governor has delivered that message for us about 2 months ago, I think, or maybe a month ago. Any questions on food services, nutrition services?
Perhaps just for the benefit of those of us that weren't in hearing some of this earlier, tell us just in a few minutes about the decision to be no-cost meals. What's going on there? I just think people in the community might ask.
So originally we were getting these funds out of the COVID grant, and when the governor shut down, she required all schools to continue to provide meals. Well, the industry, we took an economic hit, and the industry shut down too. And so the governor then extended her message, and in her directive that all meals should be provided at no cost. And so we're not only providing meals for our students, but families at no cost. And it's been going that way since last March 2020. And it's going to continue through the summer, and I believe through next year. Chanel, do you have any additional information on that?
I don't, just that it has been declared that next school year, it'll be free lunches again for all. And so that's where this last year in the budget, we've come up on a shortfall because I think we budgeted $100,000 to collect in lunch sales, and we collected like $100 total. So moving forward to next year, we're budgeting a very small amount just because we will have staff back on campus. And so It's only free first through age 18. So technically adults still have to purchase their meals. So if we have any staff, they might make a purchase, but other than that, it is free breakfast and lunch for all students up to 18.
Oh, okay. Lacey?
Thank you. Did any of the federal money coming down help supplant that? Like is reimbursement to our nutrition services an eligible?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are reimbursed through the NSLP.
Okay, and so those grants are coming into the fund. So the general fund portion of nutrition services may be a decrease, but we're going to see an increase support from the grant funding.
It's not necessarily an increased amount because from what I've gathered so far, and I've only been able to spend a little time in this part of it, but I plan to spend more. I don't know that we get reimbursed 100% for the food that goes out between staffing and food, but all of it comes from Fund 299. However, so to make Fund 299 whole, since I don't see a one-to-one reimbursement through the NSLP program, we're looking at transferring out of the general fund $81,000.
Okay.
To keep our fund whole. And that is with, I sat down with the food service department and we really analyzed their budget. And we felt that we could decrease it by some, looking at the history from 1920. And then this year with being a full year of COVID, we looked at what was being spent on food and we were definitely over budgeted there. So that's why we decreased the budget by 51,000. But to meet budget, we still had to increase our general fund transfer from 20,000 to 81,000.
Okay, thank you. That's a great explanation, Chanel.
Yes, thank you, both of you on that. Go ahead, Mike.
Just a side note on that one for FYI purposes is that we've been serving 13 to 14,000 meals a month.
Wow.
And for quite a while until 2 months ago, the majority of those meals were being delivered by our transportation department. So we've done a lot around that, around feeding our families in Creswell.
For sure.
Okay, moving on. Fund 300 debt services. General obligation bonds fund rate at 184 per thousand. Repayment total 1,484,053. Any questions on that? Pretty clean. Moving on to the next page, general fund 225 and 270, district grants, Creswell Education Foundation, SIA, ESSER, and Seismic Rehab Grant all combined into that cost center. 225 and 270, the cost center special services grants. We'll bring in federal programs with IDEA, which supports our students in special education. Preschool Promise, KITS, our Kinders in Transition, and our Youth Transition Project, and our Family Resource Center. Crest Lane grants, we have a grant title for the IRC project that continues, and Title 1A. At the middle school, Title 1A for staffing and outdoor school grant. And then at the high school, we have the High School Success Grant there and the Perkins Grant that supports our CTE program. Any questions on those, on the grants? What you didn't see noted there was the ESSER grants and the SIA grant, but we've already explained those previously in another cost center. So that's all I got for you. A lot of numbers. Chanel, did you have anything to add to that overview?
I don't think so. I'm just available for questions if anyone has any.
Lon, did you notice that my pace slowed down this year?
I couldn't decide whether the pace slowed down I sped up, but no, this is great, Mike. The presentation is comprehensible. I think that just assuring to probably us and the rest of the community that it's a steady state service situation where really very few changes appear to be or appears to be the goal. Certainly, hopefully it looks a lot different than it did last year or this current year, right? For everybody. This is really the best time for everybody to ask questions about the budget. And I think just anything that seems appropriate. I don't see any hands raising.
Janelle's done a very good, very comprehensive job on this budget. She's really been in deep.
Well, I think I can speak for everybody in the community. I think you've all been in deep all year, and how everybody has survived the chaos of this experience is certainly beyond all of us. And so on behalf of the people that I've talked with and know, thank you very much for just even enduring it. When I say you all, I guess I even mean the parents and the students that have had to endure this. It's everybody's had a lot of stress and it's been tough. So I appreciate that. I want to go back just with one question on the ending fund balance from last year. I'm sorry, I can't, I'm trying to keep track of everything on my screen and I don't have the budget in front of me, Mike, but with all of the cost savings that occurred, what was the ending fund balance difference from the projection? Or
We projected a 2.2 million ending fund balance, and as it stands right now, I think it's even conservative, but 2.8 is what it's looking like we'll come in at, and that's really what's saving us from the shortfall in the state school fund.
Right.
If we came in at that 2.2, we'd be $670,000 short, difference.
Right.
Right now, we're only looking at a $77,000 difference from last year.
Great. The only other difference that I saw, and just again, community-wise, this is something that we normally would have a voice on if we wanted, that ending fund balance or the 7% from 9% to 7% contingency funding. That is a number that at times has been almost down to zero back in the worst of days. Thank goodness most of you weren't here during the worst of days, but you probably had students that were worse student at that time. But 7% does seem like a healthy number. I just want to make sure that that is a comfortable number with everybody. Cool. Anything else, Mike, Chanel?
One thing I'd like to just make sure that we all well understand that, we're trying to, for the first time in many years, adopt curriculum, get current in our math curriculum and ELA. And those are two of the most expensive curricula that there are in our schools. And there wasn't a lot of holdback on funds to prepare for that. So we've really worked hard the last 2 years, and part of this 2% from the 9 to 7 is reflected in that. We desperately need to make moves on that to increase student achievement. So it's what's best for kids, no doubt about it. For these kids in Creswell, it certainly will make a difference.
Well, I think everybody applauds that move. And I remember, like I said, I remember times where that was a really uncomfortable number, and I'm glad that we have it, but I'm glad that we're not being too conservative with it so that students can achieve better. So thank you. Seeing no hands and hearing no other voices, I think we can go right on into new business number 6, which is actually approving the proposed budget. Am I correct? Are y'all comfortable moving that way?
Lon, would you like me to put it up on screen? Or would you like to see people? raise their
Sure,
hands?
you can put it on screen and I can read it. That's fine. No. Okay, I gotta escape out of here. Get out of here. Thank you. Okay, well, I move that the 2021-2022 Creswell School District proposed budget be approved as follows. The general fund of $16,668,840. The debt service, which you can see at the bottom, by the way, is $2,094,796. And from special revenue grants, $6,655,929. Facilities, $943,000. Nutrition services, $486,692. Vehicle replacement, $288,098. Student activity, $347,542. Student body, $393,100. Scholarships, $55,687, for a total of all funds of $27,933,684. I further move that the permanent tax rate of $4.6426 per $1,000 of assessed value be assessed in support of the general fund. Do I have a second to that motion?
You do, I second.
The motion is seconded by Tim Rogers. Can we go ahead and not share the screen so we can see everybody? Thanks, Chanel. All of those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Hold it up so that Marilyn can count. I have 11. Is that what you have, Marilyn? You're muted.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Great. Okay, let me change screens here again. Sorry. Hopefully all these teachers that have been doing Zoom and online are faster at this than me. So as far as the remainder of this agenda, we do not need another budget committee meeting. The public hearing of this budget will occur on June 9th at the regularly scheduled school board meeting, which is at 6. The meeting's at 7 p.m., but for those of you joining us on YouTube, the public hearing for the budget will be at 6:30 p.m. So that will be an opportunity for further feedback before the board actually accepts this budget and our work tonight. Are there any other statements or any business that we need to attend to?
Well, I'd like to make a comment, if I would, Lon. Last year, you mentioned that how much you appreciated volunteers and people for I guess, giving of their time with their families and activities and their unselfish contributions to the school district to volunteer. And I would like to echo that for this committee and say thank you to all of you for your interest in doing what's best for our kids and being here to assure that we're on a pathway to stability and bringing the best education possible to our kids.
Thank you, Mike. I certainly think that gratitude is warranted. And most of you that have sat on a budget committee meeting with me know that I always end these budget meetings feeling rather uncomfortable about the public support and the amount of revenue that schools are asked to serve their mission with. In this case, however, I'm not going to say that. I think kudos to certainly the staff and the school board, but also to the entire community for all the sacrifices everybody's made to make this thing work. And I know nobody could be in their right mind and be happy about the situation, but we've all been doing our best, and I appreciate that. And I hope that next year's budget meeting will be one that seems maybe back to normal and or at least closer. So thank you very much. And again, thank you to the community for your support of the Creswell School District. Mike, thanks for doing a great job. Chanel, thank you. It was great. It's fun to be able to sit and look at these figures and data and actually know what's going on. So I appreciate everybody's help. Without any further ado, can we resign and go about our day? All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lon.
Bye.
See you, Marilyn. Thank you, Marilyn.
You're
I forgot
welcome.
to specifically say Marilyn.
Thank you, Lon.
School fall down without